Here.
Commissioner Rice?
Here.
Commissioner Duckham?
Here.
Commissioner Alexander?
Present.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Here.
Commissioner Polacek?
Here.
Commissioner Elwell?
Here.
Chairman Chetwell?
Here.
All present.
Arrived at the first opportunity for public comment.
There's an election today. I hope everyone will go out and vote no on the proposal that's on the ballot.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none. We've now arrived at Budget Retreat Session 1 Strategic Review. Administrator Overton.
You switch it over to laptop.
You know this stuff by heart.
I've got it back up. So the lesson is always have a backup plan. So this is the 2016 and 17 budget we're working on. This is first part of our planning process for the budget, so we can get your direction prior to bringing it together. And the second part will be a revenue and expenditure, and then third part of it is we'll ask you to make some tough decisions. At least from what we're looking at now, we haven't finalized the revenue numbers yet, but from what we're looking at now, it looks like will be some tough decisions that we've talked to you about before, back in the during the middle of the winter. So we've chosen our budget colors for next year, and we used the Jackson High school colors of orange and black. So we try to spread that around. Here's your approved strategic plan, which is one and the same with the Jackson 2020, which I don't think I mentioned this to you last week. I intended to, that I was able to present at the Building Michigan Communities Conference last week about how the county worked with the citizens in Jackson 2020 to work together to build a community plan. And so that was a nice chance to highlight what the great things Jackson County's been doing with working with the community and involving citizens in the process. But you adopted this plan a year and a half ago, and we're making lots of progress, as you'll see today, on these initiatives. So I'll go over just some overall characteristics, some data about how we're doing and some of the improvements we've made. This is our overall quality of life as perceived by residents, and we made a nice jump in from 11 to 13. The margin of error is 5%, and this is right on it, which tells us it's probably a statistically significant move. So that's a primary indicator for us. And some of this data is, you've seen most of this data actually before when we presented the National Citizen Survey in 2013. And so I'll be using that. There's a little bit of new data, but in 2015, we'll ask you to repeat that citizen survey. That'll be our third annual or biannual citizen survey. So they tell us in the data analysis says that the greatest impact on quality of life is in safety and the economy. And that is displayed in a lot of other places amongst this data set that we've had. We also, in these categories that are blue there, are where we're similar to our benchmark, the national benchmark, that is. So, and those lighter blue are where we're lower than the national benchmark. And some of these things you have control of, some of these things you don't. And somewhere in our strategic plan, we have a little bit of influence, or we exercise or try to be involved in. And so we have to work together because nobody really holds the keys to answering all the community's challenges. So looking at community aspects, if you remember from when I presented the survey data, they break it up into all these areas of questions into 3 groups. The first one being aspects of community characteristics. And the positive note to take away with, amongst these questions, 21 were positive, or increased from our previous survey. 7 of them stayed the same in comparison to the benchmark, and none of them worsened in comparison to our benchmark. So that's it's very positive, says you're going in the right direction. And that's, again, aspects of community characteristics. The aspects of governance is the second grouping. At 25 questions where we improved in comparison to our benchmark. Again, really positive. 11 of them where we stayed the same. And again, 0 where we worsened in comparison to our benchmark. So I think that's also a cause to celebrate. And then last one is aspects of participation. And we had 7 that improved in comparison to our benchmark, 4 that stayed the same, and this is the only one where we had a couple that were worse than our benchmark. And I'll have to see if I can recall which ones they were. I know those are on top of my head, but if you want to know that, give me a call, or I'll shoot it out an email or something, which 3 questions that was. But they were the ones that were a little bit surprising to me, actually. But so I'm going to show you 2 different charts. One's a pie chart, one's a bar chart. And just show you, if you ask the question in different ways, you get a slightly different answer. In this question, which strategic plan area is most important to you? So they're only allowed to select one. And when they select that one, they overwhelmingly said economic development, 40%. And then education, and then safe community. And of course, we ask all these our strategic areas of importance. So you see what it means to the community, those things. Then when we ask it, how important are each of the following strategic planning areas, and we allow them to select very essential, very important, somewhat important, it looks a little bit different. When you add the essential and very important, you get safe community that comes out with the most, and then economic development, and then education, and then healthy community. These largely reflect the priority in which you've put on them, where we've actually, Jackson 2020 has not numbered them, prioritized them like you. We have more of a reason to prioritize them because we have to make decisions according to it with regard to asset allocation. So, but I would say both of these largely reflect the priorities that the board's put on them. So I'll just go through a few snapshots for each progress. You've received presentations throughout the year in our new strategy, so as not to give you a 3-hour less meeting on our strategies. We broke them up 1 month, and they came in here and they tried to engage. So this time, as we go through it, it's a brief snapshot. We'll go through a few pieces of data and then cover some major accomplishments from each strategy. So economic development, a lot of the businesses that you see pictured on here are doing very well, and they've added shifts or added employees, extended buildings, and or some of our major employers in the county. So not intended to leave anybody out, but this is some of the data we use to measure success in economic development. These are also these are public perception of our economy. So employment opportunities rated good or excellent. Well, we've moved a lot. That increase is outside the statistical significance, so that's a statistically significant improvement from 6% to 12%. And for economic development efforts, rated good or excellent. On a good note, we didn't go back to where we were in 2009. Other than that, 15 to 14% is a relatively flat, stagnant perception of that. Right, it's within the margin of error, so it's not a statistically significant movement. So that's why we would call it just a flat. Yep. So some accomplishments. A new team has been formed, the Economic Development Advisory Council, and we've had some very good leadership amongst that with the EG, with the county. Employee Kent Mauer's been our chair for that. And we've also had some other community members step in and help guide the team through that. Mike and I have been a part of it. And they're trying to figure out how they add value to economic development, but they've had some very positive conversations. And some of the things that have come out of that is that they're beginning to talk about land assembly and the importance of that, having parcel-ready land that developers can access. So, and that's going to be extremely important item for us going in the future if we really want to make that dial move on the citizen perception about bringing, but it's also going to take some capital investment and some strategies to get there. This map is not a map of our county, but it's just an example of some piecing together some properties and then filling it out with the appropriate utilities. We've had good capital investment in our community. If you look at the EG scorecard, you'll see the millions of dollars that businesses are putting into the existing businesses, like Mackey, the building extension, the new Techniques building. Mackey is, or Max Trudeau Max Steel is doing very well. Obviously, Allegiance is doing well. These are some of our largest employers in the community that are putting money into it. And then also on a smaller level, there's a lot of smaller manufacturing businesses that are also putting money into that. It's a good sign. So looking at safe community, we have a good percentage for I feel safe in my neighborhood. It's in the 90s. The perception of feeling safe downtown or in the commercial areas is a little bit lower than that. But also remember, this is a county-wide survey, so when we say, do you feel safe in your downtown area? Probably to most that means Jackson, but it could very well mean Parma Village or Springport or something like that. But so it's going to be a mix of people. People in Springport probably feel pretty safe downtown, but so we really don't. We don't have the breakdown of what that means to people when they say in the downtown area.
Probably Brooklyn.
I'm guessing that, yeah.
Actually, it's probably people from Brooklyn coming to Jackson.
I thought we've been sending them the other way, but
You know,
yeah.
really, Adam, it's probably the outlying area that don't come to Jackson very often. Downtown that are a little apprehensive because they haven't had the experience lately.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of truth to that. That the people that are downtown probably have a different perception of it than the people that live out in the sticks, like myself. So, and then last perception issue: crime prevention efforts, good or excellent. Really, not a lot of movement here. It's within the margin of error. So, some accomplishments. We've reported on this before, but we've come together. We've brought a multi-agency team together, the state police, the city police department. We've had township public safety officials, and I really attribute this to the leadership of Captain Bassard and the Sheriff's Department. We have a safe community plan for the board to consider adoption that will likely bring to you at the third session of the retreat. and where we actually have some action plans, action steps, and they've gone ahead and started working on it, and you'll see some of them have already, they've checked off the list. So that's a really positive movement because we've had trouble pulling together people to work on that. So we see we got to play with the scenario-based training session that training software that they purchased, and that's a positive thing. I hope that it's being used across the county through multi-agencies, and that's the intent of it, was to share it amongst all the law enforcement. And a big success was the e-ticketing. Again, a lot of parties involved with that, the district court, the sheriff's department, the encouragement of the Commissioner Elwell, some of his work on it. So really a combined effort to get that in place, which should be a great efficiency. Moving on to healthy communities, I try to always throw out a picture of my kids there. Those are three of my youngest daughters having fun in the yard. But the big story here in the healthy community here is the HIO. They are very impressive. If you haven't ever been to one of their meetings, they're very well organized. They're constantly reviewing the strategies, so they've got this automatic feed loop built into what they're doing, so that they're not have goals that are 5 years old. They're always keeping it up to date. And literally, kind of like the education team, there's hundreds of people behind that steering team that work on the different, what they call health action teams, the HATs. So there's lots of people involved in this HIO effort, and I think we can attribute that in the board's decision to merge ways back in 2007 and 2008 with United Way, with Allegiance Health and the county, to come together and make that HIO strong. We've seen some great progress here. So again, these questions on this slide are perceptions of health care. The perception that preventative health services rated as good or excellent, going from 45 to 52, it's actually statistically significant from 2009 and 2011. So a good increase. And then this one, rating healthcare as good or excellent, from 30 to 49%. That is an amazing climb over that 4-year period. And positive improvement in healthy practices. Now this comes from the Community Health Survey. So this is, again, these are actually, did you do this? So this is not perception data. This is what's called derived data. It's real data. We've moved from 45% to 52% in people saying they ate 5 portions of fruits and vegetables each day. Or they participated in moderate, vigorous physical activity, from 30 to 49%. Again, a huge increase. 19% over 4 years is really great. And if that weren't enough, some of the other accomplishments, we've moved from 65 to 50 out of the 82 counties that are in the health rankings. And I'm not sure which counties left out of that, but there are 83 counties. But apparently there's one left out of that data set. Decreased the proportion of high school students that report having smoked cigarettes in the last 30 days from 18 to 11%. That's very positive because our community has a high smoking rate, particularly across the county it's in the 30s, whereas the state is, I believe, around 22%. So we've got a high smoking rate, and if we can address it while they're young, we have a larger likelihood of moving that big number down. Well, the infant mortality rate decreased from 7.2 to 3.9 deaths per 1,000 live births. So that's a great progress too. And again, the teen pregnancy rate of 63 to 47 per 1,000. And we have a very good program that works in the schools addressing at-risk youth far before they get involved, but identifying youth when they're very young, teaching them good values, and then following them and mentoring them throughout high school to make sure. So we have a very aggressive program to address teen pregnancy. So moving on to arts, recreation, and cultural opportunities. Hopefully these are some of your favorite things there, the fair, the orchestra, the Cascades. The graphic there, the Arts and Cultural Alliance, we've worked with them on our planning efforts to come up with the strategies. Arts, recreation, and cultural opportunities. These are paths and walking trails rated good or excellent, and ease of walking. So both positive improvements and both statistically significant improvements. Cultural arts and music activities, availability of those, we have a statistically significant increase from 2009 to 13. It's within the margin of error from 11 to 13, but if we go back to 2009, you're within the statistical significance. That's the Potter Center, where we have a lot of great activities through the college. And this is the percent rating good or excellent, the arts, recreation, and cultural opportunities, the county parks, recreation programs, which we are not necessarily the provider of, and recreation centers also. This one's gone down over the last 2 surveys, and I don't know how to explain it other than maybe in 2009, that's of course when our economy is bad. It's highly likely that people use the parks. They're local, they stayed at home to recreate, so instead of maybe going over a county or 2 or something like that. So looks like our use has gone down a little bit. Some of the accomplishments, this picture right here is the Swains Lake Bathhouse that is will be ready for the first bookings, I think, on Memorial Day, right, Scott? Correct. Yeah, so it looks very nice. The acquisition of the Intercity Trail Connector property, again, from 2 different property owners, we acquired those parcels, and there are grants in with the state to be able to build those out. This picture here, and we have some other ones, is of the Cascades now, and it looks, the transformation, if you haven't been by it, you'll want to drive by because the transformation is just incredible. The views from all around the park have totally changed. The sod looks beautiful, the fencing really is attractive, and this is the view if you were standing right in the middle looking through the fence of the Cascades. So, and we've also initiated the study for the Fair Master Plan. So there's potentially a lot of good things that can come out of that Fair Master Plan study. Moving on to community and social supports. Rating excellent or good, the affordable quality, I think that's housing. Affordable quality housing and housing options. Relatively stagnant, not a lot of movement on this. We know there's been a lot of multifamily dwellings in the city that have come down. We've looked at our vacancy rate as part of the revenue committee. The vacancy rate in the apartments that we survey is extremely low, lower than it's ever been in the last 6 years, under 5%. So I think actually the average was 2% vacancy rate. So a lot of those houses that have come down through the city have likely gone to the apartment complexes within the city and the surrounding areas. But that still is pretty stagnant, those 2 measures. And then citizens rating good or excellent mental health care. That's the first time we've measured that, so we now have a benchmark going forward. Health care, positive increases, food, and the child care preschool, again, up from 33% to 40%. That's a statistically significant increase. So a lot of positive measurements there. There is a new Financial Stability Coordinating Council formed that led out of the Health Improvement Organization and also the Community and Social Support Strand. The story is the HSCA, the Human Services Coordinating Alliance, decided to be the backbone of our Community and Social Support Strand. And somewhere between them and the HIO, they wanted to tackle issues more closely related to financial stability and competencies. So they formed a team, and we'll see where that goes, and if and when they come up with a different plan or a different strategy, we'll bring it before you to consider. but right now it's just kind of in a forming stage of, we'd still consider this under the community and social support strand of the county's strategic plan. Education, there's going to be some headlines in here about Cradle to Career that's gotten a lot of good press, both in the local media and also Michigan Public Radio. And some of our perceptions have moved up, not necessarily as a result of it, but maybe. The first year we've measured adult education is this year, so we have a benchmark at 48% now, being good or excellent. But you've got really good movement on the other two, K through 12 and child care preschool measurements, both going in the same direction. One of them statistically significant, one of them not, within the margin of error, but close. And here's some of the headlines that have made MLive over the last year and a half. And this is the Cradle to Career website. And we've, the chairs and some of the leaders of the C2C were actually invited to the White House to participate in a session with the President and the First Lady on education. So that says a lot about that program. Government efficiency and effectiveness. Again, these are perceptions of citizens through the citizen survey. We've got good movement on the services provided by the county. We always see that as higher than the federal government perception, but it's also nice to see it going up. And if you look at that over the 4-year period, that's a statistically significant increase. And the value of services for the taxes paid, a consistent line going up from 25 to 33%. And in the overall direction, we had a dip in 11, but we've brought that back up. That's 6% change, so that is statistically significant. So lots of positive things there. The accomplishments, these fall under other strands, but this one is unfolded differently than other strategic processes. And I don't know that it'll ever work like those processes where we have a team that goes out and does government efficiency. The way we've seen it happen over the last 5 years is that it happens amongst each of the individual strands. So if you look at the Health Improvement Organization, you've got collaboration between all these businesses and public and private sector employees and leaders. The Cradle to Career Network is a network of people empowered in their organizations to make decisions. The Human Services Coordinating Alliance, the Parks Agreement that we have with Columbia Township several years ago to work on the beachfront. That's an example of government efficiency and effectiveness. Working with Lifeways to support their facilities, and the merger of the County Road Commission with to become the Jackson County Department of Transportation. All great examples of government efficiency and effectiveness. And there's frankly some things that we've tried and they didn't work out. For whatever reasons, though, with HR and with parks. The important thing is we've never been afraid to try and experiment on these services. So as long as we continue to not be afraid to try and experiment on those, I think we'll see some successes come out of that. And then the last one is our measuring our own health of our organization, the improved work environment strategy. And we've made some progress in some really tough times. We saw a lot of big dip on the last survey. This is new data you haven't seen yet. Nobody's seen it. And it's from the 2015 survey. And we made some really positive changes. This is, my job gives me a feeling of personal accomplishment, and I'm satisfied with Jackson County as a place to work. Both some positive improvement. And if we look at that whole survey, and of course this will come to you when we haven't completed the analysis of it, but we've looked at some basic descriptive statistics, and out of the 60-some questions we ask, there's only 4 or 5 that went negative or below the previous year, and none of those were statistically significant, meaning that the other 59 or 58 questions all went up in the perception of our organization. So we're doing something right with the organization, and And this survey was given on the heels of negotiating all 11 of our contracts. So, and you know, we were not as generous because we don't have the means to be to buy people's satisfaction through money. So we have to find other ways to give employees meaning and joy in their coming to work. So, if you haven't seen it, I think we talked to you about it, but Mike and I were trying to recall if we ever actually brought that before you. And to our recollection, I don't know that we have, but we created an internal communication plan. That is how we're going to communicate with employees. And we've been implementing it, things like taking notes at our leadership team meeting and then sending it out to the employees and saying, here's the notes. In summary, we talked about this, but if you want to look at the detail, here's the hyperlink to it. We've done more email blasts from our office as a result of that. There's a lot of things in there that we've implemented in the communication plan because that was one of the low spots of our employee survey. In fact, two of the lowest spots, which is very common in all organizations, is communication in management. And we saw some of the biggest increases in this most recent survey in those two sections, so good things. We had some emotional intelligence training for 75 employees. We also filled a couple extra spots. We had about 15 extra spots that we invited the city to join so that we maximized that training. And the city employees came over and joined us for that. We've provided some basic software training to employees, some education assistance, and right in the middle of analyzing the fourth biannual survey. So this is the time we want to hear from you. I hope I asked you to think about this last week, about what are the things, we have this long-range plan, it's a 5-year plan. There's lots of goals and strategies, but what is it that's important to you to see done in the next 2 years? In the next year, to see us accomplish. And this is where we have to build in flexibility into our plan, things are going to come up, things are going to change. We just approved a master affair planning study. So what is it that you would like to see come out of these, the next couple years, some successes?
We have a huge drug problem in Jackson, and I was talking to an officer. He felt that 90% of the drugs in Jackson, 90% of the crimes in Jackson County are in one way or another connected to drugs. With the legal system budget, safe community budget being between 50 and 70% of our total budget. And I think there's where we need to come up with innovative new programs. I don't have the answer. It's just very clear that about 20 million of our budget is being spent because of drugs. And I don't know if we don't have enough enforcement, don't know if we have enough treatment centers. Don't know the answer, but it's pretty clear when we spend 50 to 70% of our budget on the legal system, and drugs is estimated to be 90% of the problem, there is a focus point. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And by the way, I'm not taking notes right now, but we're going to go back to the recording and we'll make a list of all these things that you bring up.
As a follow-up to what Commissioner Duckham said, at last week's DHS meeting, I had the opportunity to hear Director Lyons speak in regard to children's welfare and complaints, and the numbers are overwhelmingly increasing, in a large part because of the same issues that Commissioner Duckham was talking about. Many of the complaints for child welfare are related to the drug issues and incidences. In February, there were 152 assigned children's welfare complaints, and in March that increased to 233. With that being said, we also have a lack of foster care homes, and that creates an additional financial expense to the county if foster homes are not available. So there is a trickle-down effect because of that, and it is significant.
Yeah, these are the children of those that have parents with drug problems that become the county's responsibility. Yeah.
Good presentation, Adam. Another aspect of all this too is I believe it's important that we focus on the mental and emotional health of the people in our community. When you consider a healthy community overall, excuse me, a lot of our people who end up in our ER or Allegiance Hospital, and as the CEO has mentioned in the past from Lifeways, you have people waiting in the lobby for 3, 4, 5 days just to get a bed in the hospital. That tells you that the hospital itself or the healthcare system is overburdened with people needing health care. And a lot of that stems from the fact that it initiates from their mental health struggles in life, which everybody knows those struggles lead to alcoholism, drug use, and so on and so forth, self-medication. So I really think we need to take an even closer look at the overall aspect of what kind of stressors and struggles people are having from a mental and emotional health standpoint, because again, they are a precursor to many, many ills that we have in Jackson County. So.
Okay.
Adam? Good morning.
Morning.
I think as we start approaching the baby boomers becoming older and older, and now in their 60s and 70s, we need to look at the fact that the county is going to have an aging population that's going to be needing more assistance in some of the Meal for Wheels programs and nursing homes and things of that sort. So I think we need to watch as our county ages what services we're going to need to be providing 5 and 10 years out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other thoughts or things you'd like to see happen?
Good morning. Good presentation, by the way, also. I guess a couple things that I noticed. One was the cultural arts and music activities increased, but the arts, recreation, and cultural opportunities decreased. So the area I guess I'm specifically concerned about would be the diminishing numbers in the recreation programs as well as the recreation centers. I think those are areas that we could definitely use some help in, because the more recreation programs and the better our recreation centers are, I feel like the less issues we'd have with the drug problems. I think a lot of the drug problems that we have in the city stem from, one, the problems with our economy now. People don't have jobs, so they got to resort to what they have to resort to make money. And then on the flip side, there's just not a lot to do for the young people in our area. Mm-hmm. So I guess that would be 2 main areas that I would be concerned with.
Okay, and I think we're really hoping that partnership with the city parks, that collaboration would work out so they bring more recreation planning to the county and other parts, but that didn't continue, but that is a noticeable gap in the service.
Morning, Adam. I think the one thing we're hearing in all these conversations is jobs and economy, and I'm guessing that's why you can't argue with what's already been said about the drug problem. I wouldn't argue with that for a second. But so much of that is tied to lack of jobs or having jobs. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that's why the economy polls so high in the polls. And I'm glad to see that we continue to improve. And I think as we focus on that, hopefully that'll impact the other areas to a point. So.
Definitely.
And as a follow-up to that comment then, if we know, but we also know there are jobs in our community. There are jobs. We lack the skilled workforce. We hear that repeatedly, and so that has got to be the other piece as well.
As Commissioner Alexander said, there are jobs. The drug issue gets in the way of hiring people a lot.
Yeah.
You can't employ these people because they won't give up drugs. And if you have a drug-free workplace, which you got to have, and then they've taken themselves out of the loop.
Yeah, it's a, what came first, the chicken or the egg thing. You can see the jobs may have led to this, but then it's also preventing it on the other side too, so.
Adam, another point too, as it's been mentioned before, you have a lot of senior citizens who are working, whether it be your McDonald's, fast food places, whether it be your convenience stores and such, gas stations, making $8, $9, $10 an hour. Oh, okay. Vice Chair Duckham wanted me to throw in Walmart. But anyway, my point is you also have signs, as has been mentioned before. You have signs all over Jackson. I mean, you walk into any one of these places, for the most part, and it'll say hiring for nights, hiring for weekends, and so on. Some of them are ideal jobs actually for the young people in school who are looking for looking for income to help them get through life, because maybe the family doesn't have a lot of money and things of that nature. But yet, I talked to one lady who owns a store, and she was waiting 3 weeks before she actually got some applications, and before she actually was able to hire someone. So, I do believe that there's jobs out there for young people, but there's a reason they're not taking them. So.
Any other comments? Well, there's actually some cohesion amongst everybody's comments that I think we can take back to certainly our budget planning and also to these strategic planning groups to express them that this is the Board of Commissioners' concern, and see if what is it that we can do about it. So thank you for that feedback. And if throughout this whole budget planning process, other things come to your mind, just shoot Mike and myself an email and we'll add it to our list. But thank you for the feedback. We appreciate that. So just to wrap up, the next time we'll see you to talk about this is May 19th, where we will have finalized our revenue forecast and talk about some of the expenditure forecasts. We also are producing right now a document that summarizes each program and what the impact of that program is, knowing that we have to make some cuts. Hopefully, our budget document's pretty robust. This will be a lot shorter and simpler, hopefully to digest. So, and then on June 2nd is there where we'll give you a target revenue-wise that we're looking at and ask you for some guidance on putting together the budget. And we're looking for August, September approval. Really, September is the latest that we have to approve this budget document because the fiscal year begins for some of our departments on October 1. So, and that wraps up session 1. Thanks for your participation. Appreciate it. Unless there's any other questions.
Okay.
Next up, we have the tax foreclosure right of refusal. I think everyone has that in front of them. This is basically our opportunity there. We have the next, 30 days to review these properties across the county that are in potential taking by government. Does anyone have any questions or anything regarding that?
Mike, just one comment. We had looked before, or at least talked briefly about a parcel that's in the city by the fairgrounds. I'm trying to pull it up to see what the side street is there. It actually adjoins the lot across from the fairgrounds that we have. It almost looks like it might be the same piece that we had looked at before a couple of years ago to use as a possible access to the side street. Is there any more thought to that? I'm trying to get to it here as I speak.
You're speaking to the parcel that runs into the Blackstone property there?
Correct.
Yeah, I see that there.
There's actually two there, I think, but one of them, I think, is the same one we had looked at before. And I'm wondering if there's wisdom in our actually keeping that to use as an access to North Street. I think it's North Street it intersects with, is it not?
It does, per the map here, it does.
Right.
Well, we will look at that piece of property then and come back next board meeting when you got to make a decision on up or down on that.
Thank you.
Any other properties off the top of your head, anybody that you've looked at anywhere has merit? If not, again, by the next board meeting, we have to make a decision, so. For the benefit of the audience, I would tell you that online we have all the maps of every township, like the city, and it's online. Yeah, anyone can look at it, and you'll see in red all the properties that are in jeopardy and properties that potentially we could. I hate to use the word take, but claim is the real word. Perhaps is a better choice. We have 30 days to make that decision.
Invite him to the podium, or we're going to start, we're ready to start?
If nothing else, we'll move on. What do you want to do? Next up, we have Fifth Street project.
Good morning.
Morning.
We have been working hard on the Fifth Street project to move this project forward. Our staff completed design and got everything submitted to MDOT here earlier. Actually, submittals went in a month or two ago, but the final submittal of plans and specifications went in here in April. And we had what we call the grade inspection meeting where MDOT officials were present. So everything's good and in the hopper for a July letting for the project. What had happened this year, as you can see in our staff report, is that we have two grant sources, first of all. A Category F grant for $180,000 and a TAP grant for $265,807. The Category F grant is secure. It's state money. There's no problems there. All is good. But the TAP grant, unfortunately, we learned the very day we submitted our final plans, the money had run out. There was like 1 point some odd million left the very day that our plans were electronically submitted. And this was earlier than ever before, unprecedented, only 6 months into the fiscal year. In the federal budget, the money's gone. The $165 million for Michigan was basically spent. So a lot of counties are in the same boat we are. They have projects hanging out there that they want to move forward on. And the mechanism available to us, as well as other counties, is what's called advanced construct, where we make a commitment to go ahead with the project with the understanding that we'll get reimbursed when the federal government acts to pass a continuing resolution for the Highway Trust Fund bill, currently called MAP 21. That is anticipated to happen here in May. All indications are that it will happen, but no one can ever predict what happens in Washington. If we do approve moving forward with the advanced construct option, our risks, as we understand it, and a lot of research we've done, and Stephen Duke has been very helpful in working with MDOT officials. You'll see some email attachments to the agenda item from Amber Thielen and Landon Johnson, as well as Steve Duke. And our understanding is that our risk is almost none. The only thing that could happen is that Congress could not pass a highway trust fund bill, and that hasn't happened for decades. So as long as they do act to do something, the money will be secured, and the TAP program happens to be one of the high priority programs that would be reimbursed first off the top. So, and in fact, with any luck, the reauthorization would happen here in May or June, and this whole thing would not even be an issue. But we're at that fork in the road where we'd sure like to keep moving and get this project constructed. The bulk of the money is fine in the Category F grant funds. It's just this TAP grant portion that's up in the air until Congress acts. I did do some research and talking with other managers and officials from other counties, and I did learn that Lenawee County is advanced constructing $400,000 on a project. Ingham County is advanced constructing $300,000 on a project, and Washtenaw actually has two projects that they're advanced constructing $400,000 each for a total of $800,000. So in speaking with other managers yesterday in a regional meeting, it's commonly done. They've done it before in years past, and there really weren't, although we're all frustrated with the running out of funds. It happened last year, but it was later on. It was more towards July, correct, Joe? So this year, April hit faster than anyone before we even knew what hit us. Had we known that this might happen, we surely would have tried to get our plans in even earlier. So here we are, and that's basically a rundown, and we're happy to answer any questions and help clarify any issues. I assume I let the chair recognize.
Well, I understand that the TAP grant is reimbursable. This morning, the House of Representatives issued their budget, and in their budget recommendations, are there reductions in this? Because they're talking about reductions across the board in federal spending. And what if we have a 10% reduction in TAP dollars that come to the state of Michigan? What priority are we to get reimbursed?
Advanced constructs typically get
local agencies that are going ahead with advanced construct projects, those are the ones that get reimbursed first prior to any new projects. So all of those agencies that have put those in the hopper to get them going for construction, to get them started sooner rather than later, then the reimbursement will come back to them before any of the new projects that are not advanced construct.
I appreciate that, Joe, but where are we at in the line? I'd like to know if they offer $2 million and we've got $2.3 million worth of advanced constructs going on in this region, where are we at in line to get reimbursed?
They're going to offer more than that. For those who don't know me, I'm Steve Duke. I'm the Executive Director of the Region 2 Planning Commission, and we're also the MPO for Jackson County, which is the transportation organization. The project is already in the queue, or it's in the hopper. If sufficient funds aren't available this year, they're going to pay us back with fiscal year 16 funds after October 1st.
Those assurances were given in the email documentation that you have.
I understand that. I just want to make sure commissioners understand that this is a prioritization, and if other organizations have already got advanced construct projects, where does ours fall in that mix? And if we have to wait till 16 to get reimbursed, does our budget have the money to be able to support that long of a cash flow situation?
Short answer to that question is yes. We have generally around a $2 million cash reserves, so we can cover this should have to wait till next year.
Two questions. What is the downside to waiting? And if we do have to wait to do it, if we decide not to pre-construct it, how long would we have to wait to do that? Just till next year?
Do you want to answer that, Joe?
Sure.
If we decided to move it to 2016 and do it next construction season, then we would lose that amount of money out of our tip for next year. So it's not like an additional where you're moving the money from 15 into 16. It's going to go into 16, but whatever projects that we might have already programmed for 2016, there's a chance that we could lose one or more of them.
But stop there. So where is the money going to come from if we do it now? It's going to come from that same pot anyway, correct? If we choose to do it now?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay. Other than the assurance that we wouldn't be doing it before we knew for sure that we were going to get reimbursed, correct?
Yes. It's moving along, and we're looking at a July letting. If we didn't have to, if they didn't run out of authority, we would still have a July letting. And now, even with the advanced construction moving ahead like that, we have everything in order. We can still meet that July letting and get the projects going the way that we originally planned.
In a normal federal aid job that we would handle here in Jackson County, if that project did not go this year, it would come out of our allocation for next year. The TAP money is managed by MDOT, so the money, or the jeopardy of not getting the money would fall on MDOT, not on the local agency. This is a TAP program managed by MDOT, not by JAX or the local transportation planning organization.
And to clarify, I think we said it in the agenda, Bill, but the grant is to Leone Township, but we had to sign on as the sponsor because you have to be an Act 51 agency. So generally, road commissions and road agencies like ourselves are the sponsors for projects like this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all three of you gentlemen coming up here and speaking on behalf of this, and I certainly appreciate the recommendation from our Director of Engineering and our Managing Director, as well as the MPO for Region 2 Planning Commission. They've obviously looked into this, they've researched it, they've made their phone calls, they've done their emails, they've talked to the Michigan Department of Transportation, they understand how this works from a federal funding standpoint. As everyone knows, I myself have stayed part of this and involved in this and researched this and looked at this since 2011 when we first started. And I'd just like to everyone to keep in mind as far as commissioners are concerned. As I've said before, no way would I want our road department or Jackson County ever to be held with a bill that we shouldn't be having. And everything I have found out is we're not going to be held with a bill. And quite frankly, this is a wonderful opportunity for one of our townships, Leone Township, but also this is a wonderful opportunity for Jackson County. We're talking about a Category F road project that allowed over $200,000, as I've stated before, to go to other road projects. So because we worked hard to get the Category F grant, we actually brought over $200,000 into other roads in Jackson County. So you can look at it that way as well. So, you know, we can look at this as over a $500,000 project, but we can also add over $200,000 more on top of that that we utilize elsewhere. Also, there has been planners and engineers who have come right out and said that they're going to use this as a pilot program for other townships. Category F grants are extremely difficult to obtain. This is the first TAP grant that anybody's aware of that a township has received in all of Jackson County, the first. And this will open the opportunity for other townships to seek this. And this is something that we need to keep in mind because this is something that's very important to all of Jackson County. And to speak to what Commissioner Elwell said earlier, this is not delaying it another year. If you look at the history of this is delaying it another year, which means it's delaying it another, from the onset, this is delaying it actually another 2.5 years when it comes right down to it. Thank you.
would like to point out that one of your attachments is an actual Federal Highway Administration pamphlet that's explaining what Advanced Construct is, and there's a companion video to it as well, but just to educate local officials on how the funding works and so forth. So that adds a layer of legitimacy to the program.
Pointing at me, Mike, I hope. Okay. Mine was the only arm I saw up, so. Chris, looking back through the emails here that were provided, I appreciate those, and, you know, I hate to say it, but my typical philosophy I was raised on is don't put the cart before the horse, and we're dealing with taxpayer dollars here at risk, so I guess I'm looking, if I'm going to end up supporting this, for the most assurance that we can get that we're not going to be potentially left holding the bill, and I haven't heard anybody say that they're going to guarantee that we can't, but there's not many guarantees like that in life, I guess. But as I look through one of the emails, I'll read one sentence. It says, the only rare instance I think would not make this the case is if Congress were to rescind all existing TAP apportionment. I think the situation you described overall would be rare, considering that if when Congress issues more authority, finance will use that authority on converting AC'd or advanced constructed projects before new funding jobs. So I think there is the risk there. Everybody's saying it's rare or minute, but it just concerns me a little. And just to clarify, I think Commissioner Rice was talking about an overall delay of 2.5 years, but realistically, if we chose not to advance construct it, then it would happen next year most likely, correct? So you'd be talking about a 1-year delay from now. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we have tried very hard to be transparent with any risks and get the appropriate documentation. So we're disclosing everything we've learned.
This program has a minimal risk to us compared to if this was our local STP dollars that we normally use for our road funding projects. It would fall on us to pay that money back. If it didn't get paid back in 15, we would have to pay it back in 16 out of our local share that comes from MDOT of federal funds. This is a project managed by MDOT. So the MDOT would be the one holding the bag, per se, if this did not get funded. They would be the ones that would have to take out of their fiscal year 16 pot of money to pay us back. That make sense?
Appreciate that, and there's no wording or way that MDOT could come back on us or our Department of Transportation for that, is what you're saying?
No, it could still come back on us, but the chances are so minute. This is a project managed by MDOT. The pot of money is controlled by MDOT. They would be the ones getting the pot of money for next year that would pay us back for this year if by chance the money did not get paid back in 15. Like Joe said, they're going to pay back the advanced construct projects first over all other federal aid projects that come in there. So if we waited and did not do advanced construct, we run the risk of not getting the money anyway, because other advanced construct projects could have got the money ahead of us.
Yeah, when you do an advanced construct, it's essentially akin to butting in line a little bit. So what you had said earlier is applicable. People are rushing to get in so that if we just wait, we're at risk of not even getting the project going for the next year even. It might be longer, where we have to reapply.
Out of curiosity, are we looking for action on this today, or are we just discussing it and it's for the board meeting?
I was going to clarify that after we finish the discussion, Dave. Thank you.
So Advanced Construct has been around for quite some time. Other counties have been utilizing this, I'm hearing you say, but Jackson County never has. Is that correct?
I believe the city of Jackson used it probably 20-something years ago, and
Okay.
it's very successful, yes.
Okay, but that would be is something new to us. Okay.
Communities that can cash flow projects do it more frequently than others, so, yeah.
Any other comments? Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just again, I'd like to say that we have three gentlemen up here who certainly know more about transportation and the ins and outs than we certainly do as a commission. I also understand that we have the responsibility of tax dollars. And again, I've looked at this thoroughly myself. And again, I would not want to put us in a position where, again, that we ended up holding the bill. And from my perspective, actually advanced construction in today's world is the best way to go. And this just happens to be a situation where we've fallen into it. Didn't need to, but we did. And so we actually have fallen into something that road departments and commissions are doing more and more of. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and the fact that we have, if you will, 3 professionals up there telling us that this is the route that we should consider. Thank you.
And I will echo your comments there, Commissioner Rice. I wouldn't be standing here with this recommendation if I didn't have a high level of confidence in our ability to move forward with minimal risk. I respect Steve Duke's input on this, as well as Joe's. We've had significant discussions and provided everything we've learned to you. So,
Just one final comment from me, and it's, I think, kind of ironic that we're talking about this on a day that we're voting on the road proposal. And I would guess that it's probably different, but I think a big if the road proposal passes, a big portion of that, if not the majority of it, my understanding in the first couple of years goes towards paying back projects that the state had already constructed, and it's, I think, 3 years before we start to realize the real impact of it if it passes. But I suppose this is substantially different than that. That is for what projects that were done and bonded, and this is to pay off the bonds from them. But I just personally am philosophically opposed to taking on projects before we have funding for them. I mean, maybe this is the exception, but I just personally don't like the idea of that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to support it, but I'm just real apprehensive about it personally. Thank you.
Chris, what would happen if the road proposal is defeated today? Does that increase our risk?
oh, it's not related whatsoever to this. The grant has been awarded to us. The money is ours. It's just that the money isn't in the bank, so to speak. What we call obligation. So it's not related to Proposal 1.
I just wanted to make a quick comment that I've reviewed the materials as well, and frankly, I'm inclined to go ahead and proceed with advanced construct under the circumstances, but by no means would I want to routinely advance construct. I think if all communities start routinely doing that, it's only a matter of time before someone at the federal, state, or have you says, oh, they have all this cash, why are we giving them so much? They have that kind of cash to advance construct every project and hope for a payback. So I do think the circumstances are unique. There was some challenges early on that caused us to be in this position. I do believe there's never a 100% guarantee, but this is a good bet, if you will. I just don't want to get in the habit of doing advanced construction, so for what it's worth.
Okay, this will follow the normal committee process, so you'll all see it again on Monday and then again Tuesday night. Final decision then. So if you do have further questions, funnel them through Mike's office. That way he can ask Chris and we can get the answers from the professionals if you have further questions. Mike?
Morning, everyone. I just want to underscore the comments made by the commissioners earlier regarding the workforce, and I want to remind the commissioners, as the presentation I made last month, we have 40% of the people in the state of Michigan, and I think Jackson County mirrors this percentage, who are not participating in the workforce. They are eligible to work, but they are not participating, which means we have 60% who are, and unfortunately, a lot of those are the millennial generation who really want, to a great extent, their lifestyle the job, to wrap around their lifestyle versus the lifestyle wrap around the job. And to a plant manager who I speak with today in our Tri-County area, because I represent Hillsdale, Lenawee, and Jackson counties, it is quite common practice to hear during the interview, how many days can I miss in my first 90 days and keep my job? And 20 years ago, you did not hear that comment. And to a plant manager, they say, Mike, I hear that all the time. And so that's a real issue we have facing us from a workforce standpoint, because my problem today is not that I don't have jobs. I have jobs. I can't find skilled workers, or those that have the work ethic who want to work. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? One more.
Just one other comment with regard to Proposal 1 today. I think I've pointed this out to you before, but the funding mechanism they've created is the very one that failed them. The reason they haven't had enough money to maintain our roads, according to the director of MDOT, was that there was a decline in revenues from the gas taxes due to two things. People changed their driving habits during the economic crisis when fuel prices were so high, and the increase in fuel-efficient vehicles. Well, there's two things we can certainly count on. There's going to continue to be an increase in fuel-efficient vehicles due to federal standards. I believe in 2025, they're supposed to go up to 56 miles a gallon. And we can also count on the fact that at some time in the future, gas prices are going to rise again. There's demand from emerging economies like China and India, and that's not going to go away. So this is a bad proposal because it has a bad funding mechanism. And I just urge everyone to vote against it. It will simply recreate the problem that we already faced and that's already put us in the situation where we have deteriorating roads. Thank you.
Okay, public comment is closed. Commissioner comments? Dave, are you going to handle it?
Just one note, I think some commissioners, at least, if not all, are probably going to Gerard Siraki's service after this meeting. Gerard served the county well for a lot of years in Lifeways, and is going to be sorely missed.
I have two things. One, there are some discussions in Lansing regarding the age of trying juveniles. Right now in Michigan, we're one of 9 states that automatically tries 17-year-olds as adults. And I just want, in the budgeting process, you to be aware that if that changes, we would have 17-year-olds still considered a minor and not be automatically charged as juveniles. And I had a interaction with the sheriff here, and we have about 5 17-year-olds or younger in our jail at any one time. And under these discussions, those 17-year-olds would be in our juvenile care, which I was asking you about the secured juvenile detention center. And I just want to bring that up because that could affect our budgeting for the juvenile center if that type of proposal passes where we change the age of minors in the court system. So that's just one thing. And then the other thing is we have the Beach Boys coming to the Jackson County Fair on August 10th. We just announced that yesterday. Tickets are going to go on sale on Saturday at 9 o'clock. And you can get your tickets at the fair office in person, or you can get them online at eTix. Thank you.
Any additional commissioner comment?
Just want to wish all the mothers a happy Mother's Day this Sunday.
Okay, seeing, hearing no additional comment, meeting is adjourned to the call of the chair.